I'm Maya Trabulsi. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump faces harsh criticism from former GOP candidates, and he's also facing a court date in San Diego over Trump University. Our KPBS report on payment security problems for San Diego Transit riders is raising some questions down at City Hall. And first, there was Fitbit for humans, and now there's FitBark for man's best friend. We'll check it out. You're watching Evening Edition on KPBS. Donald Trump continues to make headlines on his campaign trail with some heavy criticism from a former GOP nominee. We'll get to that in a moment. First, the class action lawsuit in San Diego against Trump University is moving closer to trial. KPBS reporter Steve Walsh has that story.
The San Diego case is one of 3 filed against Trump University, including one filed by New York's Attorney General. Patrons of Trump University contend they paid as much as $35,000 but received little useful training in real estate. Donald Trump rejected the charges. He often points to cards filled out by students which gave the program a 98% satisfaction rating. Recently, he said federal judge Gonzalo Curiel was being unfair by allowing the San Diego case to continue. Trump brought up Curiel's Hispanic heritage. The judge is the son of immigrants, though the former federal prosecutor grew up in Indiana. San Diego class action suit was filed in 2010. It may come to trial before the election. A final pretrial hearing is scheduled for May 6, and both sides recently added Trump to their witness list. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
And the last Republican to run for president says Donald Trump should not be the party's nominee. Mitt Romney came out against the frontrunner today, saying Trump lacks the temperament and the integrity to be president.
Here's what I know. Donald Trump is a phony, a fraud. His promises are as worthless as a degree from Trump University. He's playing the members of the American public for suckers. He gets a free ride to the White House, and all we get is a lousy hat.
Romney said Trump's policies would lead to another recession and make America less safe, and said Republicans should nominate either Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, or John Kasich. Trump fired back quickly.
But I heard that Mitt Romney made a fairly long speech. And I mean, honestly, I thought I'll just address it quickly because it's irrelevant. Look, Mitt is a failed candidate. He failed. He failed horribly.
Trump says Romney begged for his endorsement 4 years ago. Trump is also being criticized by 2008 nominee John McCain and House Speaker Paul Ryan. PBS NewsHour will have more campaign coverage coming up at 7 o'clock, and you can find all our election coverage online anytime at kpbs.org. If you're registered to vote as a no-party preference, look for one of these in the mail. It's a card telling you that if you want to vote in the presidential primary, you'll have to take action. Nonpartisan voters cannot vote in the primary unless they request a ballot from the Democratic, Libertarian, or American Independent Party. And if you want to vote Republican, you have to register as a Republican before the deadline.
And you believe, let's say, that you're a Green Party voter or a Republican Party voter, but you're not registered with our office as such, then you're going to be limited, potentially limited in your choices unless you re-register to vote by May 23rd.
And you can check your registration status online at sdvote.com. 2 state lawmakers are trying to push through a bill to change those voting rules. ACR 145 would allow for a nonpartisan public ballot. Its sponsor says they want to ensure that California voters get to vote for the candidate of their choice, whether or not they register with a given political party. California's Secretary of State is working on new systems to modernize the voter rolls and get more people to the ballot box. Alex Padilla recently sat down to talk with KQED political editor Scott Schaefer.
And the little bit of bad news, will be the last state in the nation to come into compliance with a federal mandate to have a centralized statewide voter registration database. The good news is we're on track for that to come online this June. And what that will do is not just modernize how we conduct elections in this state, but from a voter perspective, allow you to go on and register to be able to verify the status of your registration. A lot of times when people move, we forget where we registered, or if there's a name change, that can easily be done. Where your polling place is, requesting a vote by mail ballot, or after the fact, verifying that your vote by mail ballot was received and counted. And if not, why not? You could have a signature mismatch issue that you're not aware of after so many years. Or same thing with your provisional ballot. So it's going to be very user-friendly and hopefully empowering for voters as well.
And that'll enable us to do this motor voter automatic registration when people go to the DMV, or are those two things related to each other?
Yes, so having the system we call VoteCal in place will enable a lot of the other election modernization and reforms that we've been working on. A lot of people have asked, what about same-day registration? You know, that bill was passed, it was signed into law, but it's contingent upon VoteCal, you know, being in place. And so now we envision that within the year. And same thing with new motor voter. This automated registration through the DMV is contingent upon VoteCal being in place. And so, again, we're seeing that come online sooner rather than later.
If you think about it, the way we vote now is still fairly antiquated. You can vote by mail, but we still have polling places all over the state. Oftentimes you go on election day, there's no one there. We can do so many things now on the internet. We do our banking, our medical appointments and records and all that stuff. Why can't we vote online?
Well, I think there's two reasons why voting online isn't in our near future. Number one, most people will guess security. Right? We hear about a data breach far too regularly in the news, and you know what's more at the core of our country and our democracy than the elections. We cannot compromise that. The second reason, equally important, is our privacy. We have a secret ballot in this country to prevent bribery, prevent coercion, and we know the internet's not really built that way. Whenever we hear about a hack, we know what the messages said, we know who sent the messages, from which device, from which account. So it's not in the near future. But that being said, there's a lot of room to embrace technology to afford people more options in when, where, and how to cast a ballot. I'm sponsoring legislation that could bring to California a new vote model where every voter automatically gets their ballot mailed to them. And you have options on how to deliver that ballot. You can mail it back. You can drop it off at a number of ballot drop boxes or drop-off stations throughout the county. But utilizing technology to modernize polling places as we know them today, to turn them into vote centers that afford early voting and the flexibility for voters to vote anywhere in the county.
Is there the money to pay for that? Because counties complain all the time that they're told to do things by the state and there's no money for that.
Look, we believe there has to be money to pay for that because the equipment we have today, even without any changes in how we conduct elections, the equipment we have today is at or beyond its life expectancy. We need new equipment no matter what. So my argument is, instead of just buying a brand new iPhone 2, let's look at what technology today enables and invest in something that's much more user-friendly, meaning voter-friendly, while maintaining the security of our elections.
So just quickly looking ahead 5-10 years, how are elections and voting going to be different?
Well, again, what I envision is a model where every voter automatically has a ballot mailed to them, and many people will choose to mail it back. Many people will want to drop it off in person, and for some reason, if you lost it, made a mistake, you need a replacement ballot, you can walk into any vote center in your county. Not just a polling place closest to where you live. Maybe it's easier to vote closer to where you work, where you drop your kids off at school, by the shopping mall, and being able to have all your questions answered and your custom ballot prepared there really cut down on provisional ballots in the process.
California Secretary of State Alex Padilla talking with KQED's political editor Scott Schaefer. California lawmakers have passed a plan to increase the amount of pay workers can receive during family leave. Californians can currently take up to 6 weeks off work every year to care for their family or bond with a new child and receive 55% of their wages. The measure would increase that amount to 60%, with low-income workers collecting up to 70%. The bill now heads to the governor. The legal age to buy tobacco in California may soon be raised from 18 to 21 years, which would make California one of the first states to raise the legal smoking age. Lawmakers approved legislation today that calls for sweeping new regulations of tobacco use in the state. Proponents of the legislation say the reason this legislation passed is because it was voted on during a special session.
What's been happening for decades now is that solid tobacco control bills have been getting stopped in committees that are designed to stop tobacco bills. You know, we've always felt that if we could get bills to the floor, that we would have the votes. And the special session allowed us to do that for the first time.
Opponents of the legislation say it infringes on personal freedoms. Ku Klux Klan members and counter-protesters involved in a bloody fight in Anaheim last week have been released from jail without criminal charges. Authorities say it's possible they could be arrested again because prosecutors are still reviewing the video footage, photos, and other evidence from the weekend clash in which 3 people were stabbed. The U.S. military has started recruiting women for combat roles. New plans obtained by the Associated Press say some branches of the services expect only a small number of women to volunteer or get through training courses. The Navy is already seeing submissions from prospective SEALs and could see women in training for those roles by the fall. 2 San Diego City Council members today called on the Metropolitan Transit System to upgrade its data security. Earlier this week, KPBS reported the public transit agency falls short of the industry standards meant to prevent credit card fraud. Here's the letter both David Alvarez and Lori Zapp signed. They say every day that goes by without an upgrade, MTS is putting more of its customers at risk. Transit riders have been able to use credit and debit cards to buy MTS passes for years. MTS officials have admitted their system fails to comply with the industry standards. They say they're making improvements, but don't know when they'll achieve full compliance. A local taxi cab company is taking on the big boys of ride sharing by doing things a little differently. Ride Yellow is competing with the likes of Uber and Lyft for a place on the top.
It's a fight for the best deal. And Ride Yellow says they have it.
We came out with an app as good as their app and actually better in many ways.
It's an app that hails one of 300 yellow cabs from Camp Pendleton to the Mexican border.
It is GPS based. It's available for your iPhone or your Android.
The company has eliminated surge pricing during peak times. That means the price is the same every day and all year, $2 per mile. Anthony Palmieri, president of Yellow Cab San Diego, says his drivers go through rigorous background checks, including fingerprinted checks that are conducted by the Department of Justice. The drivers have also worked in the transportation services for years and sometimes decades.
What comes on this app is the driver keeps, which is really important for the driver, he keeps 100% of the money, doesn't have to give 28% back to the company. So whatever he makes on this, it's his money. It's not my money or anybody else. It's his money, and that's really important.
Palmieri says the widespread use of ride-sharing apps have hurt his sales by 25% over the last few years. But the new app and restructured policies that he says have brought drivers back, and he hopes the customers he has lost to Uber and Lyft.
I am excited because I realize that I can't get them to be regulated like us, so I got to come down to their level and compete at their level in order for me to survive in this market.
And KPBS videographer Christopher Maui helped produce that story. Sports Authority is closing 3 stores in San Diego County. It's part of the company's bankruptcy filing. The stores are in El Cajon, Escondido, and La Mesa. Nationwide, the sports chain is closing 140 stores over the next 3 months. Scripps Health made Fortune magazine's list of the top 100 companies to work for. Scripps came in at number 42 and was the only San Diego company to make the list. The magazine cited benefits for Scripps employees like tuition reimbursement and on-site childcare. Google was rated first on Fortune list, followed by Acuity Insurance of Wisconsin. Can you imagine doing stand-up comedy in front of your coworkers? Well, a local woman is asking employees to do that. She's asking them to do improv together. That's improvisational theater, where there are no scripts and all the acting is spontaneous. KPBS's Claire Tregeser has the story.
I got you a gift. Thank you. Thanks for the world. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've got plenty of one for my office. I don't know where I'm going to put it, but hey, I'll find a place.
Lorena Rivas is with 12 fellow managers from the San Diego Trading Company. In the middle of a workday, this team isn't restocking clothes orders or planning store layouts. They're doing improv comedy.
So you say a word on the snap, you say a word on the snap based off of his. We all say it together, do. A word. A word. A word, a word, do.
The employees are in a workshop at Finest City Improv. They play improv comedy games to help them learn creativity and teamwork and be more engaged with each other. But Riva says at first she was very nervous to let loose with her coworkers.
I thought that it was going to be a lot of sort of getting out of the box, getting out of the comfort zone. Doing things that we're not used to doing.
But after her third session, she's warmed up.
To be able to say it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to, screw up and do this and do that, but at the same time, you know that there's going to be a positive. The world's not going to end.
And I need one person to please step up into that spotlight there. Yeah! Give her a round of applause. Huge. Why did you step up there? Why not?
Nothing can go wrong.
Yes, nothing can go wrong. We've all got her back. She knows she's supported.
Amy Liseski has been leading improv training for companies for 3 years.
If we're doing our job well, within the first 10 minutes, they feel really safe and secure, and they know that everyone's in this together.
Finest City Improv has had 25 corporate clients so far, ranging from Kaiser Permanente to Green Flash Brewing to Harrah's Resorts. They pay about $2,000 for a 2 to 3 hour session. Usually they do 3 sessions filled with comedy, games, and exercises.
Triangle.
Collar.
Triangle, collar, do.
Pink.
Ew. Pink, ew, do.
This is a simple word association game, but with a beat.
I don't know. I don't know either.
While the games look silly, Liseski says they have a purpose.
My hope for when people leave a workshop with us is that they are a little more engaged with the people they work with. I think engagement is a bit of an issue right now in workplaces. People are on their electronic devices a lot. We're constantly communicating through email, and we're losing a little bit of the connection with each other.
She's also hoping to teach teamwork. In one game, an employee leaves the room and the group decides on an action they want him to do. Put a chair on the stage and sit on it. But they can only communicate to him through cheering or booing. At the end of the 3 sessions, San Diego Trading Company's owner, Luis Adillo, says it was worth the money and time.
Well, I wanted really people to feel more engaged and be more aware and in tune to work as they were working.
He says he can already see a difference in his management team.
We just verbally say to each other that we have your back. And really thinking that the people that we work with on a daily basis, we're all part of the same team.
Let it out. This is your chance.
But he also probably doesn't have to worry about anyone leaving him for a career in stand-up comedy. Claire Tregesser, KPBS News.
Looks like a lot of fun. Some wet weather headed our way after a long dry spell in San Diego. Molly Cochran has more on tonight's KPBS Weather Report.
Unsettled weather headed into California. Already seeing those clouds and some showers earlier today in San Francisco. We can see on our satellite where some of those clouds continue. Some showers pressing near the Reno area. Also have been tapping into some of that cloud cover towards LA, mainly offshore of San Diego. Now, this is a look of what's to come. A pattern change bringing that jet stream farther off to the south, bringing in unsettled weather, and that's really how we're going to stay into the upcoming weekend. Now, over the past 6 hours, we've been relatively quiet across San Diego County, but we are going to start to notice those changes as we head into the weekend. So temperature-wise tonight, pretty close to where we should be at for this time of year. 48 in Oceanside, Long Beach at 53, 55 in San Diego, and 50 in Chula Vista. Now, for Friday, the warmth and the dry air remains in place just a little bit longer. So enjoy the afternoon. Maybe head out, run some errands from LA into San Diego, back towards Las Vegas and Phoenix, all enjoying pleasant conditions for the end of the work week. But we are anticipating all of this wet weather that's moving into the northern half of the state to slowly sink to the south by the time we head into the upcoming weekend. Not only that, but starting Friday morning, we are going to be watching a high surf advisory go in effect for the San Diego area along the immediate coastline, and that extends through Tuesday morning local time. So something to definitely keep in mind. Not only are we dealing with the wet weather, but some higher surf as well as beach erosion going to be possible and the threat for rip currents. Now, all of this wet weather coming in for the weekend going to likely cause for some flooding in some places and our pass levels coming down. And what that means is we're expecting slick conditions across the mountain passes. Some places in the higher terrain could be looking at feet of snow. So travel delays going to be quite likely. San Francisco back towards LA, including San Diego, Las Vegas. It's just going to be a slow go as we head into the upcoming weekend. Now, our first batch of rain moves in by Sunday morning, but I think the steady rain going to be pushing in by Monday. So just in time for the work week here, give yourself plenty of extra time. And notice our temperatures come down as well. Upper 50s for Monday, back in the mid 60s by Tuesday, and we will begin to clear out. Also across the interior sections, morning rain for Sunday, steady rain moves in for Monday, daytime highs in the lower 60s. Across the mountain regions, we'll also be looking at that morning rain for Sunday. Temperature-wise, we're in the upper 40s, falling even cooler by Monday, as well as that wet weather and some snow mixing in as well. Across the desert, we'll be enjoying some sunshine for Sunday and then some spotty showers into the early half of the week. Daytime highs Monday in the lower 60s. Molly Cochran, KPBS News.
Another piece of NASA history will roll through the roads of Los Angeles in just a few weeks. It's an external fuel tank for a space shuttle. In fact, it's the last of those giant tanks, and it's going on display at the California Science Center in LA. The shuttle Endeavour is already there. And these tanks were used to help boost shuttles into space. They'd be ejected after launch and usually broke apart after reaching Earth. The one going to the Science Center was never used. It arrives in Los Angeles on May 21st. You or someone you know may have a Fitbit to track your physical activity. Some tech companies say being active is as important for pets as it is for humans. So they've come up with wearables with names like FitBark. Marketplace tech correspondent Molly Wood tries a pet activity tracker on her new dog.
This is Reggie. He's about 3 months old. And this is Reggie's new doggy activity tracker. This one's called the FitBark, and it's actually going to monitor his activity, monitor his sleep. He'll wear it around on his collar all the time, and I will collect all of his doggy data and see what that's good for. Come here, buddy. How do you look? Okay, Reggie, nap time is over. Time for some activity. Come on. Ready? Ready? Go get it. Okay, buddy. Let's go for a walk. Come on, this side. Good boy. This side. Good boy. Good boy. So little Reggie here has been wearing his FitBark for 7 days, and I've gathered enough information to get some actual data about him. Despite some initial skepticism, I actually find the data kind of interesting. You get this sort of daily chart, and you can actually zoom in on specific hours and see how much he rested, played, and was active during that time frame. It's the kind of thing that you would get excited about with your own Fitbit. I don't know how long that interest is going to last, but as a brand new puppy owner, I've been kind of into it.
And you can tune in to Marketplace on KPBS Radio weekday mornings during Morning Edition and also at 3 p.m. and 6:30.
I'm Gwen Eiffel on the next news hour, making sense of sexism on Wall Street. That's Thursday on the PBS News Hour.
Recapping tonight's top stories, 2012 presidential nominee Mitt Romney came out against the current Republican frontrunner today, saying Donald Trump lacks the temperament and the integrity to be president. Trump fired back, saying Romney begged for his endorsement 4 years ago. The legal age to buy tobacco in California may soon be raised from 18 to 21 years. Today, lawmakers approved legislation calling for sweeping new regulations of tobacco use in the state. It includes regulating e-cigarettes and expanding tobacco bans to more schools. Opponents of the proposed bill say the regulations are an infringement on personal rights. And the San Diego Registrar of Voters is reminding residents, if you're registered to vote as no party preference, you cannot vote in the primary unless you request a ballot from the Democratic, Libertarian, or American Independent Party. And if you want to vote Republican, you have to register as a Republican before the May 23rd deadline. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. On Morning Edition, a new approach to autopsies is helping families combat previously undetected diseases and in some cases avoid untimely deaths. And on Midday Edition Roundtable, San Diego journalists dive into this week's big stories. That's tomorrow at noon on KPBS Radio. And as always, you can find tonight's stories on our website at kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us from all of us here at KPBS. Thanks for watching and have a great evening.